Hello there everyone, and welcome to Production Mess, where we combat against any movie that has a troubled history, with a K. Let's be honest right now, video game movies suck. For years, each video game movie has been getting worse and worse. That is until one movie surprised everyone and became a huge success. No, I'm not talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, aka the best video game movie ever. The first movie that broke the so-called video game movie curse was the 1995 film Mortal Kombat. In case you haven't watched the movie or played the games at all, Mortal Kombat is about a gruesome fighting tournament that the Elder Gods are in charge of to determine the fate of each realm, including Earthrealm, where their best fighters were chosen to save their realm. It turns out that Mortal Kombat had a very problematic and shockingly brutal production history that includes X-ray moves, fatal blows, and more. So let's dive into the flesh pits and discover what went wrong with Mortal Kombat. It all started in June 1993 by a rising producer, Lawrence Kasanoff, or Larry for short, after working on and finishing a well-beloved sequel that you might know called Terminator 2 with James Cameron. Larry came to visit some of his friends at Midway Games offices in Chicago. Turns out they were also working on a sequel to their big hit arcade game, Mortal Kombat, which was in the testing phase during that time. A game Larry described in the Hollywood Reporter as Star Wars meets Enter the Dragon. Weird comparison, but okay, makes sense. Anyway, Larry found a lot of interest in the game and was going on about how Mortal Kombat could be more than just a game. He even promised that he would make a movie out of it, and more, also known as Money Talks. Neil Nicastro, former chief of Midway Games, looked directly at Larry and kindly told him his honest opinion. "You're full of crap, it's just an arcade game." No surprise, video game movies during that time were shown to be very unsuccessful, like Street Fighter, Double Dragon, and the Super Mario Bros. If anybody gets associated with a movie based on a video game and it becomes a flop, it would severely damage their career. So Nicastro understandably didn't have faith in Mortal Kombat being a movie. Ed Boon didn't even believe a movie about the game would ever exist. When the movie was being discussed, I remember not taking it seriously at first. I thought this is probably going to be talked about, but not happen. Nobody had faith in it, except for Larry. And as soon as Midway Games finally saw the potential of Mortal Kombat being a movie, thanks to the success of Mortal Kombat 2, Larry immediately left Lightstorm Entertainment and came on board to start the production of a Mortal Kombat movie, along with this company that he created, Threshold Entertainment. The director chosen for this film would be the recently new Paul W.S. Anderson, who at the time directed the 1994 film that gave us Jude Law, Shopping. Apparently they saw how talented he is, so they got him on board. Already, the production got hit with a problem, which was the casting. There have been multiple actors that are being brought up to play some of the combatants. Some were auditioning to get the role of Liu Kang, including Russell Wong, Philip Reed, Dustin Nguyen, and Jason Scott Lee. But Liu Kang wasn't the only character. Cameron Diaz was originally going to play as Sonya Blade, but she suffered from a wrist injury that made it impossible to do stunts, and yes, combat. Jean-Claude Van Damme turned down the Johnny Cage role to play as Guile in Street Fighter, since things obviously have been made. And Brandon Lee and Steve James were being brought up to play as Johnny and Jax, but Lee died from an accident during the production of The Crow, and James died from cancer. The worst fatality. Rest in peace to both of them. There were also reports about Tom Cruise being interested to play as Johnny, but all we know is that he came to the film set and was told by a Meg to get lost. Yeah, true story.
I just fought a walking pair of teeth on the side of a mountain. I'm not Tom Cruise, you know.
If that didn't happen, what would it be like if Cruise actually was Johnny Cage? Nah. Anyway, after the casting, they finally started the pre-production, and we're going to film in Los Angeles, California, and Thailand. But things get worse. Remember when I said Anderson was a new director during that time? Well, this was Anderson's first major film, and he doesn't have a lot of experience. Understandably, he was overwhelmed by this opportunity, but also ambitious to make this movie go out with a bang and decided to learn how to do visual effects. I had no experience with visual effects, so I went to Samuel French's bookstore and I bought every single book I could find on visual effects, on matte paintings, on CGI. I had to jarred it down. It sounded like I knew more about CG than anyone else in Hollywood, even though I've never been to a visual effects house. I kind of bluffed my way in, but I think they could see the enthusiasm. This might explain why most CGI in this movie didn't age well. It also doesn't help that the New Line Cinema didn't have confidence in this movie ever succeeding. The head of that studio voiced their opinion on the movie's script. I hate the script. I hate this movie. Go ahead and make it. Ed Boon and John Tobias also said that the script was too comical and that some characters weren't portrayed correctly. So they had to rewrite the entire script during pre-production. And they had to make all the PG-13 so that the movie could get the video game franchise's audience, which consists of mostly teenagers during the early 90s, before the ESRB. The crew were also kicked out by two record companies to get their electronic dance music for their film, Sony and Virgin Records. Man, that's a terrible name. Anyway, filming was also a rough experience for plenty of reasons. For Girl to be in the movie, they have to make him an animatronic, and it was a hassle. Girl was a big creation with a lot of computers and a lot of guys working around him. He broke down a lot, and we would have to wait for him. Girl became the diva of the set. Everyone would joke around about it and say, Girl won't come out of this trailer. We blocked him, and I tried to shoot him as creatively as possible, kind of shoot around the limitations of working with a big animatronic like that. We did little bits of CG enhancement to help with his lip sync and stuff. There was a production meeting where we discussed taking Girl to Thailand, and I said, that's never going to happen. He's barely behaving himself in a studio in Burbank. I don't know what he'd do in Thailand. It took over $1 million, 13 to 16 puppeteers, 0 Thailand trips for Goro. Speaking of which, Thailand may have beautiful landscapes to film, but not only did it have strong winds and hot temperatures, the locations are so remote that the crew had to travel on boat along with their equipment to film at these locations every single day. However, the worst to happen during the production were the fights. When the crew thought they finished filming, they watched the footage and noticed that there weren't a lot of fights in their fighting game movie. So they had to record 2 more fights that injured Robin Shu, Liu Kang, and Lyndon Ashby, Johnny Cage, in the process. What, you thought I was exaggerating the X-ray moves and fatal blows? I wish I was, because these actors suffered some severe injuries during the fights that they had to film. For the Liu Kang versus Reptile fight, Show hit this pillar right here so hard that it fractured not 2, but 3 ribs. Here's a dramatic reenactment of that fight. Despite the intense pain he was going through, Show still went through the filming of that fight until it was over, and he finally went to the hospital. And for Scorpion vs. Giant Cage, Chris Casamassa did an axe kick to Ashby so hard in the kidneys that he was peeing blood despite wearing pads to protect them.
No, don't wait for me. I'm fine. Let me just pee out some blood first.
Now the filming was finished, and it was decided that Mortal Kombat would be released on August 18, 1995. Everyone was nervous and hoping that the movie doesn't bomb and creators won't be ruined. However, actually, there is no however. The movie shockingly became a financial success, making over $122 million in the box office. It even became the #1 movie for 3 weeks. There was no contest. What about critically? While Mortal Kombat was loved by fans and became a cult classic, it has mixed reviews mainly because of its plot and, of course, the PG-13 rating restricting the movie's potential. Despite all of that, this became the best video game movie during that time, and it gave gamers hope that video game movies can become good with the right people. But their hopes were shattered because of a bad anime series, a bad anime movie, whatever this is, and one of the worst sequels of all time, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Anderson luckily didn't do that sequel, as he went on to make Event Horizon, and later on more video game movies like Resident Evil and Monster Hunter of all things, which all suck. Larry, along with Red Soul Entertainment, have made 2 of the worst animated movies ever. And right now, Mortal Kombat is fortunately doing good so far with its movies. There were the 2020 animated movie that may have some flaws, but is so far the best in its franchise, and a 2021 rated R film that gained the same results as the 1995 film. It also gained mixed reviews, yet it became a #1 film for this month, along with Demon Slayer, as I'm reporting.
Your brother's soul is mine. You will be next.
One day, but not the next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below for any other movie or TV show that went through a production mess that I should talk about. If you liked this video and want to see more, the next video will be about the most anticipated superhero movie in the 2010s turned to the biggest disappointment, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.